capability to provide means by which the public may hear or view and hear the open portions of the meeting and to participate in public hearings. This written determination shall be included in the public notice of the Unified Police Department meetings and shall be read at the beginning of an electronic meeting held without an anchor location. The public notice of any meeting conducted pursuant to this written determination shall include information on how members of the public may hear or view and hear and make a comment at the meeting. This written determination shall take effect immediately and will expire 30 days after the date written below or until revoked, whichever is earlier. This written determination shall be filed with the public notice website and maintained in the offices of the Unified Police Department administrative offices. Dated the 14th day of January, 2022. Thank you for bearing with me. That was a very long statement, that I needed to read and get on the public record. We'll go ahead and turn the time to the agenda. I believe we're going to take a roll call. Harmony, will you take the lead on that for attendance and quorum purposes?
Yes, sure.
Thank
Director
you.
Bradley? I can see he's on the line. Director Bradley?
Jim, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Maybe he stepped away. I can come back to him.
Perfect.
Director Brams?
Present.
Director Daly?
Here.
Director Flint?
Here.
Director Keegley?
Here.
Director Litvak?
Here.
Director Olson?
Present.
Director Peterson?
Here.
Director Prokopis?
Here.
Director Silvestrini? He's not arrived yet. And Director Stevenson?
Here.
Thank you. Director Bradley, can you hear us? Maybe he stepped away. It shows he's on the line, but we'll come back to him.
All right, so I believe that constitutes a quorum of our board, and we'll go ahead and get started with our meeting. We're on agenda item number 2 and public comment. Harmony, do we have anyone on the line that would like to make public comment today?
We had a public comment submission link for our agenda that was posted, and we did not have any public comments submitted to that link. I am not sure if there's anyone on the Zoom call that wanted to make a public comment, but we did not have anything submitted.
Okay. I will open online. Is there anyone online that would like to make public comment? Okay, and I see Director Bradley now. Jim, would you just acknowledge your presence so we have you on the record?
I am here.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. Must have had to go get that cup of coffee. All right, we will move on then to item number 3. I'll turn the time over to Harry, who will introduce and welcome our new Midvale representation to the board.
Thank you. It is a pleasure and an honor to welcome our new Midvale representative, Mayor Marcus Stevenson. I know that in reading up on you, you actually used to at some point work for our former board member, Ben McAdams, but I would ask you to just briefly tell us about yourself, and we welcome you to the board and appreciate your willingness to serve on this board as well.
Sure. Well, thank you, everyone. Really excited and really honored to be here, not only in my position as mayor, but also serving on the Unified Police Department board. A little bit about me is that I've got 3 kids, varying from I've got 3 step boys who are 13, 11, and 9, who I like to tell people all have varying thoughts about my new role. My 13-year-old has both told me that he's really excited about it because it's going to make him popular at school. And at the same time, about 2 days later, has said to never, ever step anywhere near his school at all because it's so incredibly embarrassing. Whereas the younger 2 are a little more positive about it. So that's been fun. I come from a strong background in being in our mountains, growing up camping, and have been doing community engagement work for about 10 years now. As Harry mentioned, we used to work for Ben McAdams. It's one of the community engagement things I've done, but have been around a lot of voter registration, campaign issues, and that's kind of my background.
Well, I guess on behalf of the UPD administration and the board, welcome, and we look forward to having a wonderful working relationship with you, Mayor. And you'll find that that I think we're all going out of our way to make sure that our number one role here is protecting public safety, and that we are all dedicated to that cause, as well as the related issues surrounding any governmental entity. But thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, Mayor Stevenson. As someone who also formerly worked for Ben McAdams, it's nice to meet you. And also a 13-year-old where the opinion swings from one end to the other in one day. I can relate to that. So we're very excited to have you here. Welcome to the board. Hopefully someday soon we'll all get a chance to meet in person and have an opportunity to welcome you in that way. Anyone else from the board have anything to say? All right, we will move on to agenda item number 4. Again, I will turn the time over to Harry for the election of new leadership of the board. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you. According to the UPD bylaws, the first meeting in January is a meeting where the UPD board elects its leadership positions, which are the chair, the vice chair, and Harmony, is there another office do you know of other than those two that are elected?
I'm sorry, are you talking about the clerk and the deputy clerk?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. We also need to appoint a clerk and a deputy clerk as well. So with that, I would turn that over to the chair. Traditionally, the vice chair is elevated to the chair position, and a new vice chair is chosen, who presumptively may serve as the chair going forward the following year, but that's not required by the rules. Anybody can serve in that role. So with that, I'll turn it over to the chair for nominations for chair for this coming year, and then vice chair positions, and then also to appoint a clerk and a deputy clerk for the board.
Thank you, Harry. Noting that Mayor Silvestrini, our current chair, has joined the meeting, I'll turn this agenda item over to Mayor Silvestrini. Thanks, Mayor.
Hey, Aaron, if you don't mind, I am in a kind of an unstable place. I may not be able to stay here. So if you don't have an objection, I'll yield the gavel to you for the remainder of the meeting, if that's all right.
That's just fine, sir. I'm happy to do it. I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to honor your position and your presence here today. All right, I'll turn the time over to the rest of the board for an open call for nominations for the chair of the board for 2022.
I nominate Jeff Silvestrini for chair.
Pete Prokopis, I will second, if he's willing.
Aaron, do you want to be chair?
He's in an unstable place, so he's.
I'm at the Capitol. That's as unstable as it gets, right?
Are you under duress?
I'm not. You know, let me say this. I'm honored and I'm willing to do it. I think it's healthy for the organization to have a change in leadership periodically, but up to you guys.
My reasoning behind it is due to the fact that we're still not done with the financial issues. And if you could help shepherd that through, that would be of great benefit, because the continuity of work done this year.
Dave Olson, I do support a change in leadership, so I will make the nomination for Aaron Litvak.
You know, I will second that, just to get things rolling. And let me also say, Jeff, you've been absolutely terrific, and I'd love to have you stay in that position. but I know that you're involved in a lot of boards, and I don't know if you're feeling overextended or not, but if so, you ought to say so.
So I would support Aaron just because I think it is good for the organization to have a change of leadership. And if you guys know me, I'm not going to be uninvolved. So
I'm counting on that, Mayor, if I'm the chair. I will look to your mentorship to lead this organization on the board level.
So are you withdrawing from the nomination, Jeff?
I'm happy to withdraw from the nomination. And Paulina, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your confidence. But you know, let's have some new blood.
Okay, I'll withdraw my nomination.
You just can't ignore us anymore, Jeff. That's the deal.
Thanks, Mayor Flint. All right. Any other nominations to be brought forth for this position?
I move nomination cease.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor of ceasing the nominations, please vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to then the approval of myself as the chair. I noticed nobody asked me if I was willing to do it, just teasing you because I am happy to. But we'll go ahead and thank you, Dave and Jim, for your first and second, and I'll take a vote. All in favor of Deputy Mayor Litvak becoming chair, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your trust in me, and I will work hard for the organization and appreciate all of your service and look forward to working with you over the course of the next year. I will now open up the floor to nominations for the vice chair for the UPD board.
I guess I would just ask those that would be anxious to step in that position with, even though I know that legislatively it's not a requirement that the vice chair steps into that position next year. I think you should take it on with the anticipation that you will. So I guess I would want to know if there's anybody that really would be excited about taking on that role and then stepping in the chair's position next year. Who wants the job?
Are you volunteering, Rob?
Well, I'm not. I happen to agree with Mayor Silvestrini. I have served as both the vice chair and chair, and I actually think it's really healthy for all of the board members to, join the various subcommittees, but also to step into that vice chair and chair position if you're given the opportunity. It's really a great experience. The staff does a great job of preparing you for the meetings. It's not, I wouldn't say, and maybe Jeff will disagree, it's not overly time consuming, but I think this is a great organization. It's a great board, and we should consider it to be an honor and a privilege to serve. So I'd be happy to do it, but I'd rather actually somebody else that hasn't had the opportunity step into that role.
This is Carolyn Kegley. I would, but since we are still a new town, I'm overburdened. So maybe in a year or two, I could entertain that. But right now, I think I've got enough on my plate in trying to get our town off the ground.
Well, I'll throw a name out for consideration if he's willing. Dave, since you nominated me, I'm going to turn around and see if you would be interested in serving with me as the vice chair, and see if you're open to that consideration.
I'll tell you what, I was nervous that you were going to do that.
And it's okay to say no. I promise.
I'm not going to say no. What I'm going to say is that, I feel that my current experience level is a little bit less qualified to be able to jump into that position, but there's no better way to learn and to figure it out. And so With a shaky voice, I'll accept.
Thank you, sir. Then I'll formally make that motion that Dave Olson serve as the vice chair.
And I'll second that.
All right. Any
And
other
I-
nominations?
I move that nomination cease.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks, you guys, for your confidence.
All right.
You
Well,
may-
we'll make
you
the
may have made a
formal.
mistake.
We just closed the nominations, Dave, so we'll take the formal vote on your appointment right now. So all in favor of Dave Olson serving as vice chair for the UPD board for 2022, please vote aye now.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate your willingness to serve. I'm sorry I put you on the spot. All right. Now, the other two positions, Harmony, I'm less familiar with. Perhaps you could share with the board what those roles are. That would be helpful for me.
Okay, we have the clerk position, which is what I'm currently serving as. And then Amanda Watrous is the deputy clerk, who would fill in for me.
And is it traditional for those positions to be staff positions?
I believe so. Harry may know better, but I believe it is.
Yes, the role of the clerk and the deputy clerk is to keep the minutes, to notify the board of pending matters, to make sure that notice for the meeting is done, and it facilitates that if it's a staff member, and they also can work with the board to set up extraordinary meetings or to generally serve the board. And it's easier if it's a full-time staff person than if it's a volunteer or somebody who's already on the board serving as the clerk. I'm not even sure that's allowed. So with that in mind, I would recommend continuation of the current clerk and deputy clerk.
So
Thank you.
moved.
Thank you, Paulina.
I'll
Second.
second that. Oops.
Okay, that's okay. We had a first by Mayor Flint and a second by Mayor Daly. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which are committee assignments. And again, I'll turn the time over to Harry. Harry's got a big chunk of our agenda today.
Thank you. As just for purposes of the new board member, a lot of the work is done by way of committees that meet, and then they make recommendations to our board. The committees are divided up fairly evenly in number. Obviously, there is the possibility of board members moving from one committee to another. There's also the need to replace the seats that were held by former Mayor Hale, and to provide opportunities for Mayor Stevenson to serve on a committee or two committees if he chooses as well. So I would ask Harmony to read the current assignments that now have openings, and also who's assigned to which committees, to see if we want to continue those as well. I'll thank you, Harmony. So there are three standing committees: budget and finance, benefits, and governance. And currently right now there's an opening on the governance committee. The governance committee looks at issues such as the structure of the UPD, the structure in terms of how we make changes in that. We've been in a slow process to rewrite the interlocal and look at alternatives to that. I think will pick up steam this year. It's an important position. Currently, Mayor Silvestrini is the chair. The Budget and Finance Committee looks at our finances and handles recommendations to the board regarding budget. That is currently chaired by Council Member Keegley from Brighton, and current benefits and compensation looks at questions regarding the how we're going to what we set our pay at and how we're going to fund what has been a very fluid compensation market this last year. There are a couple specials committee. One of is the legal valuation committee. This committee looks at the question of resolving the departure issues right now that we're facing with Taylorsville actually, I'm sorry, that legal valuation committee dealt with the questions of how we value the UPD. The interlocal committee that is looking at how to rewrite the committee is made up of members that also include some attorneys from entities. And finally, the departure negotiating committee. This is going to be an important committee because it will be negotiating the departure with Taylorsville. Also, that committee will be reporting back to the board on recommendations. So it looks like right now the vacancy is on the governance committee created by the departure of Mayor Hale, but other members can move around at the discretion of the board as well. So perhaps the first one would be filling the governance opening, and then after that, seeing if there are any desires to switch committees.
Okay, thank you, Harry, for that. Let's start with an opening on the governance committee. Is there anyone that would like to serve in that capacity as a board member?
I'll just say that I'm really happy being placed wherever. Being new to this, I'm good with whatever is decided.
All right.
You know, I just say, Madam Chair, that I think anybody that joins should feel comfortable serving on and joining any of these committees. I think it's probably the best way to really start to work, learn the inner workings of how UPD functions. And I know we had this conversation across the street at Unified Fire this week, and we notice all these meetings so that the quorum issue doesn't become an issue, because we really feel like anybody that wants to participate should not be shut out from this process. So I would, I would kind of approach it not so much as I'm willing to serve wherever you want me, as where would you like to serve, and then join that committee, because I think it's a great opportunity, depending on what your interests are, to start learning how the, especially for the new members, how UPD operates.
I agree, Mayor. Thank you. Let me turn to Harry and ask a question just from a procedural standpoint. Harry, is this something we need to have in this open discussion today? Is this something that we could take up at the February meeting and allow all the board members to email in their preferences of committee placement?
The committees will continue as they're currently structured until it's changed. So it's not something like election of officers that is mandated in the first meeting. It could be something that can actually be changed at any point by the board. So it doesn't have to be decided today. All committees are fully staffed with the exception of one. So if the board chooses to delay a vote on this until its next meeting, that's fine.
Okay. I guess I would ask the preference of the board. Mayor Flint, I apologize. Thank you. I would
Like to do a nomination to fill that vacancy on the governance, though. And I believe that I would like to nominate Marcus Stevenson, Mayor Stevenson, since he's volunteered to be part of the process. And what better way for him to get his feet wet, because policing to Midvale is as important for me, because we're in the Midvale precinct. So I would appreciate if he would take that position.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay. Is it a formal nomination process, Harry, for committee assignments?
I think it'd be appropriate to handle a vote on that just because there is a vacancy there. It's in the past, it's sort of been who wants to be on this committee, and then that assignment has been approved by the board. So, but I think that certainly with a pending motion in a second, the board can vote on that. And then again, I think the board can make changes on the committee assignments at any point during the year. There's not a term for a committee assignment. It's just something that right now is open because it's the first meeting of the year and there was a vacancy, but this isn't something that can't be changed at any point in the future.
Great, thank you. I'll move for a call for the question on Mayor Stevenson's appointment to the governing committee. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, thank you, Mayor Stevenson. Welcome to the governance committee.
Thank you.
I think how I'd prefer to move forward is now that we have all of those committees filled with existing positions, I'd like all of the board members to take the opportunity to take a look at your assignments and determine if there's committees that you'd like to roll off of and committees that you'd like to join. And please send that information to Harmony, and then hopefully next meeting we can coalesce the new memberships of those boards and take a formal vote instead of going through each individual board member for their preferences today. If everyone's comfortable with that procedure, will you please let me know, or if you prefer to go a different direction?
That's fine.
Great. All right, so we'll go ahead and ask all of our board members to please, if you would please email the clerk, which is Harmony, and let her know your preference as far as sitting on committees. That would be very helpful. And then in February, we'll revisit this issue and formalize our committee rosters. Thank you all for the conversation. Thank you, Mayor Stevenson, for stepping in to fill that vacancy on the governance committee. We will move on to our formal UPD update by Sheriff Rivera.
Well, good morning, everybody. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Okay. First of all, I want to welcome Mayor Stevenson. Congratulations, and we're excited to work with you. We have a really good relationship with Midvale, and I think that there's a lot that we can sit down and talk about and get you up to speed on UPD and the Midvale precinct, but we're really excited to have you, so thank you. Also, congratulations, Deputy Mayor Aaron Litvack. We're happy to have you as our newest chair. I know you understand UPD very well, so that does help us. And we've had a good working relationship as well. I wanted to, before I do my actual update, I want to say congratulations to Mayor Silvestrini. I hear that you're the 2021 best mayor around. You won the Best Mayor Award for your leadership. And I have to tell you, it is so well deserved. I've seen what you've done for Mill Creek City. And I've also seen what you've done for Unified Police Department. So I was really happy to see that. And on behalf of Unified Police Department, congratulations, very well deserved.
Thank you, Sheriff. It was the swimsuit competition that did it.
Well, whatever did it, that's fine, but you won. So thanks. As far as my update goes, I did want to let the board know that we are being impacted by the COVID virus quite a bit. I mean, just over the weekend, we had about 10 of our members out. It does take some, takes a toll on our precincts, but we're able to manage it right now. We just hope it doesn't get any worse. We expected it, so we're hoping that there's that down curve and we're able to continue on without any more people getting sick. We did have one UPD officer that was hospitalized, but we're keeping track of all our officers who are sick and hoping that they get better and they're able to come back. For the most part, it has been mild symptoms for most, but we do have them stay out for 5 days. So just wanted to let you know that, because I know across the nation that has been a problem for first responders, and it didn't want you to think that we were not impacted, because we are. So any questions on that from anyone? Yes, Paul. Mayor Flip, you're muted.
How many civilians in the organization were out? Because I know our family got it because of in-house.
And Chief Ackerman, can you answer that? You have the actual numbers.
Our civilians, we have had a handful that were affected. The number about a half a dozen just over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, any other questions regarding COVID? Okay. Also, there are several bills that, as you know, the legislature is going on right now, the legislative session, and we are very actively involved. We have Under Sheriff Peterson, who is assigned full-time to keep an eye out on all the bills for us, because there are a lot of bills that impact law enforcement, many police reform bills coming up. We are hearing that there is a handful of retirement bills as well. There is one retirement bill that would change the year. So when somebody retires, they have to wait a year to come back into law enforcement. It would change it to 60 days. Law enforcement believes that would help with some of the staffing issues. However, you know, there is the other side of, if you think about, there's at least a quarter of Unified Police Department or more that can retire. If that were the case, there's a potential that we could have several people retire at once if that were to pass. So there's pros and cons to vote to all of the bills. We are supporting some type of legislation for retirement, because we know it did have an impact several years ago when they changed the retirement. There is a bill to make the tier 2. There was, when tier 1 and tier 2 were changed, so all the tier 1 stayed tier 1. There were a group of tier 2 folks that got caught up in, when you retire after 25 years, you get 37.5%. And then the next tier 2 group got, after 25 years, 50%. That group of that had the 37.5%, we are supporting that they be made whole, because they're doing the exact same job as everybody else, but they get that lower amount. So we are supporting that bill. Next month, we'll have Under Sheriff. Yes.
Real quick, when you say made whole, do you mean be brought up to the 50%?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Be brought up to the 50% to equal all the other tier 2s. So next month, we'll have Under Sheriff Peterson give a better update. We'll have a better idea of what's going on and what bills are looking like they're going to pass, or what ones have been introduced since. We've also been told that there's most likely going to be an executive order on the federal level regarding police reform. I have been involved on the national level with major county sheriffs. We've given our input, but it could impact local law enforcement. Many of the changes will require the federal officers to make changes, but because we participate with the federal agencies in several different task forces, it will have an impact. We just don't know what that impact is yet either, and what cost it will bring. So we'll keep you updated, especially if it does require more funding. I'm hoping that if the bills are passed and there is new legislation, that it comes with funds. There's also a mental health wellness for law enforcement bill that we're looking at and we're supporting, but there's only a $5 million budget for that. And we know $5 million does not help law enforcement throughout the state much. When you think about the bill will include the family members of not just law enforcement, but all first responders. So that's not a lot of money, but we are keeping up on those bills. They're important to us, and I hope they're important to you, especially if it requires more cost. As far as the Unified Police Department and vacancies, we do have vacancies, but we just offered 7 people jobs last week. We're very excited. These are all new. They're not laterals. The toughest piece is they'll have to go to the academy, and then they have to do their FTO. So we probably won't see them for almost a year. But it's also good for an organization to continually bring in new people into the organization as well. And we'll start up our lateral hiring. We're trying to keep that balance. But as you know, the pool is getting smaller and smaller. One thing Unified Police Department has done very well is our Sergeant Melody Cutler has been running our cadet program, and we have been able to recruit out of our cadet program. Many of them have gone over to the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office as 19-year-olds, and now that they're reaching 21, they are applying for law enforcement side to go to the road. And it has benefited law enforcement because that gives them the 2 years of working in a jail, working in solving problems and dealing with individuals who are not the easiest to deal with. So it will help law enforcement side, and it also helps the corrections side to be able to have those individuals work in a correction setting. So we are supporting there's a bill that Senator Iwamoto is running, and we'll be speaking on that bill today in a hearing to continue hiring 19-year-olds and to take off the sunset. So it does impact local law enforcement if we can train them early. But Unified Police Department did pick up 2 of the, they were 19-year-olds, they're now 21. They're going to be going to the Academy for Unified Police Department, and both were cadets for Unified. So it takes a lot of years to get them all trained up, but I'm telling you, they're incredible individuals, and they're going to do fantastic wherever they go, and we're glad to have them with Unified. The last thing I have is I was asked by Councilwoman Amy Winder Newton to speak to the police chiefs regarding the countywide services Unified Police Department provides. I did that last week. We presented countywide services. We answered all the questions that the police chiefs had. It was a tough meeting because many don't understand what the countywide services are. And still don't understand it. It's tough to explain it, and we only had 20 minutes to do it. So I've offered to all the chiefs that if they have more questions, I will meet with them individual and go over what countywide services are. And we did offer those services to all the police chiefs. My understanding is Councilwoman Amy Winder Newton would like me to go to COG next and talk with all the mayors. I hope that many of you will be there because you do have a role in Unified Police Department. We believe that we're doing everything transparent. We provide a wonderful service, but there are some things that did come up, and I will be bringing them to the county council. One suggestion by several chiefs was Metro Gang Unit. The county does pay for Unified Police Department to staff the Metro Gang Unit. Other police chiefs would like the county to pay for them to also have staffing in Metro Gangs. And yes, who had a question?
Mayor Silvestrini has his hand raised.
I don't see his hand.
So I was going to wait. I was going to wait until after Aaron or the sheriff was done, Aaron, but Sheriff, when you're done, I do have a comment and a couple comments anyway. Thanks.
Okay. And really it's more, the police chiefs are more looking for more staffing and funds to help staff those task forces, more so than anything else regarding countywide. So we presented that, we'll present it to COG. The double taxation issue came up. We addressed that through SB 168 was passed many, many years ago, about almost 20 years ago. And then there was a subsection for that does cover contracting with the interlocal. And so that's how we've been able to operate. But Harry could explain that a little bit better than I, but really, I just wanted to let you know that meeting went really well. And I think that if the chiefs have more questions, they will come to me and we'll get them answered. So, and I know Mayor Silvestrini, you had a question.
Yeah, so Sheriff, thank you. A couple of things, actually. First off, I'd like to thank you and the department for providing the cadets to do the presentation of colors at our swearing in Mill Creek for our two new council, one new and one re-elected council member. But thank you for that. That was actually fun to see those cadets practicing and how nervous they were for something that was, I mean, maybe not a big deal, but it was a big deal to them. So that was fun. Secondly, I just want to let you know and let the board know too that, you know, I wear a number of hats. It's already been mentioned, but one of those is first vice chair of the League of Cities and Towns. I sat on the league's Love, Listen, Lead task force, which addressed police reform, and the league will be actively lobbying with respect to some of these bills that affect law enforcement. And in addition to the ones that you mentioned, there's a bill that will affect the availability through GRAMO requests of what are called Garrity interviews. And you know, this affects all municipalities. It's not just a police issue, but you know, whenever there's an incident with a first responder or a city employee with respect to really almost anything, but this comes up in law enforcement in the context usually of use of force issues. But those, you know, all employees of the municipality or the fire department or police department, et cetera, can be interviewed by their supervisors, and they're given certain protections under the Garrity case that basically say that you know, they can be told that, look, what you tell us can't be used in court. And there's been an action by the Salt Lake Tribune actually to try to get at some of the reports that were generated in West Jordan relating to a shooting incident. The risk to all of us of having those reports become available is that it chills other employees being candid or even being willing to talk to us about what happened in a situation. And that can be like a sexual harassment situation in a city government, or it can be a use of force situation. So that's another area of legislation. I know it, you know, for some of our civil libertarian instincts, you know, we think like, oh yeah, make that stuff public. It should all be out in public. But there is actually a real risk to us in terms of getting candid cooperation from our employees and finding out what actually happened if those reports are actually subject to being made public or published in the press. And you can imagine why an officer might be reluctant to talk candidly about a situation if they think that that's going to get out and be published in a newspaper. You know, they don't want to, you know, they want to tell the truth, but sometimes it's easier to do that in a confidential setting. So anyway, that's another bill. But I would just say, Sheriff, we need to coordinate, make sure that we're on the same page. I think we are with respect to these matters on retirement and other legislation. But this is like my home away from home for the next, 45 days. So, and that's part of what I do in my other roles is to lobby people. So if I can be assistance, I want to offer that. Anyway, and then there was one other thing I can't remember what it was, but that's fine. So thanks anyway.
Thank you. Looks like Director Prokopis.
Yes.
Sheriff, I have a quick question. Is there any efforts on the Hill to restore Tier 1 completely to deal with the police shortage across the state?
I believe there's still conversation on it, but it's a multi-million-dollar cost. so I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I haven't seen what is being proposed yet, but we don't have Under Sheriff Peterson on today. He's home ill, but he is monitoring all that. I'll have him check and get back with you. But yeah, that, we've heard URS has quite a bit of funds right now, doing very well. And we would support that to make that whole. And Mayor Silvestrini, you might have.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that, I think that there are likely efforts to try to equalize tier 1 and tier 2 in some respect. I don't think we're ever going to put everybody back onto tier 1. And the reason for that is that tier 1 is a defined benefit program that creates liabilities for jurisdictions if the program isn't funded, whereas the tier 2 program is like a 401k that's funded, so it doesn't create this URS liability that's been, such a challenge for UPD in connection with the departures of Riverton and Harriman and et cetera. So, but I think there are efforts. It is recognized that that tier 1, tier 2 distinction creates some inequities that do make it more difficult to recruit and retain officers. So, and then the league has done some work, a study actually about, do police officers sign up or stay on because of the retirement, and kind of what that survey of police officers across the state found was that older officers are a lot more concerned about their retirement benefits, but when you're actually recruiting new officers, a lot of times they're more concerned about pay than they are retirement. They're not looking down the road necessarily. So in terms of trying to find the best balance that improves our ability to recruit and retain officers, probably we're going to be beefing up the tier 2 but also we have to keep an eye on the compensation, which we all know about, right? So.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? That's all I have.
Thank you, Sheriff. It'll be interesting to see how these things unfold at the legislative session. Mayor Silvestrini, perhaps are they focused on this for law enforcement only, or is there any conversation about retirement for public employees generally?
I think the conversation, it goes beyond law enforcement, and that may be the focus and what has created the attention. But there are also issues with respect to all public employees, firefighters and teachers, and so it's a broader conversation. And I think it's difficult to treat one category of employees differently. So I expect if we get reforms, they're going to be across the board to the whole public retirement system.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. That's helpful. Something to monitor for all of us for not just the UPD budget, but our basic overall budgets as well. So, all right. Thanks, Sheriff. Appreciate your report. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the acceptance of donations. Chief Mazrin.
Madam Chair, this month we have no donations.
Well, that was the easiest agenda item ever. All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is also you, sir, which is the approval of surplus.
Well, this one's almost as easy as the last one. We have one single vehicle. It's listed in your packet as a 2015 Ford Interceptor that is going to auction. So that's all the surplus we have for this month.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I will move to approve. Jim Bradley.
I'll second. Jeff Silvestrini.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on in the agenda. And we will move to approve, we will discuss our board meeting calendar. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the calendar that was submitted in the packet? Thank you, Harmony. All right. And I believe we need to formally approve this for 2022. So I'll entertain a motion.
Carolyn, I so move.
Dave Olson, second.
All right, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none, we've adopted our calendar for the year. And then the next item is simply just our upcoming subcommittees, of which there are none currently scheduled. So I think we'll want to coordinate with the chairs of those committees to get those on the agendas moving forward in concert with the group. Is there anyone that would like to discuss an upcoming meeting or the need for an upcoming meeting now, or do you prefer to do that offline?
Madam Chair, I would ask that perhaps that item be moved after the closed session, because I do think we need to set up a meeting. The question would be timing, but I prefer to discuss that after we come out of closed session in terms of the negotiating subcommittee.
Okay. If there are no concerns with that, we'll go ahead and do that, Harry. Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item. It's the adoption of the December 16th, 2021 minutes. Everyone's had an opportunity to review those.
So moved.
And I will second.
Mayor Flint, that's for approval of those minutes.
No.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 12, item 13, where we are to go into closed session to discuss pending or reasonable imminent litigation. And I will need a motion to go into closed session.
This is Carolyn. I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second.
Thank you. I believe this is a roll call vote, if I'm not mistaken. Harmony, will you please run us through the roll call?
Yes, Director Bradley,
That would be an aye.
Director Brems,
Aye.
Director Daly,
Yes.
Director Flint,
Aye.
Director Keegley,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Litvak,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
Director Prokopis, Director Prokopis,
Aye.
thank you. Director Silvestrini,
Yes.
Director Stevenson,
Aye.
thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll go into our closed session. Harmony, is there anything you need to do to secure the meeting?
Yes, if you could please give me a moment to stop the recording, stop the YouTube stream, and make sure everyone is offline that needs to be. So it'll be just one moment, please.
Harmony, I would ask that Lisa Dudley and members of the senior administration staff be allowed to remain online, but that everyone else who's not a board member other than